I am so excited that Dillon Passage is on the line from, I think, Florida, right, Dillon?
Yes, sir.
How you doing, Dillon? It's so nice
Hi,
to meet
Dillon.
you.
I'm doing good. How are y'all?
Good. Thank you so much for agreeing to talk to us. Dillon is known as, are you the fourth husband of Joe Exotic, Dillon?
2, 3.
Yeah, I am. The fourth.
You are. And are you still married?
We are.
You are still married. And how old are you now?
I am 24 years old.
You're 24 years old. And how did you first meet Joe? And was he married to the other two gentlemen when you met him?
No, so I met him a few months after Travis passed away.
Okay.
So we first started chatting on Grindr. And
so you met on Grindr?
Yeah.
Okay.
In Oklahoma? In Oklahoma?
In Oklahoma, yeah.
And what about him attracted you to him? Because you're a young, very handsome guy. He's older with a specific look. What was it about him that caught your eye?
Well, the first time we actually met on the TV show, it was our first date was the parade, but we had actually met the night before. Me and my cousin, we went down to the Safari Bar, which was a little restaurant bar he had about half a mile away from the zoo. And he sang to me. He did karaoke that night. And
what song?
I mean, he was just very he sang This Old Town.
Wow.
And
now it's come to light that he's not actually singing in a lot of the music videos that we see in Tiger King. So how was his real voice?
I mean, I think there was a little cameo of him actually singing in the truck on the show. I mean, he's older, he has a more raspy voice, but I mean, his voice is actually pretty decent. And
so he was singing to you at the karaoke, and you were enchanted.
Yeah, I mean, he was just super sweet to me, and I mean, he just came off as very genuine and a good, down-to-earth guy.
Okay.
And, very charismatic.
And how soon after you started hanging out with him did you decide to get married?
Oh, God, I think it was a little over 2 weeks.
Now, Dillon, some would consider that a little aggressive.
Definitely jumped the gun, I can say that. But I mean,
did.
I'm not ashamed of it whatsoever.
And how did your family react to you bringing Joe Exotic home to them?
Well, I mean, my mom was shocked at first. She was like, "Oh, he's as old as me. We're the same age." And I was like, "Yeah, well, it's just kind of the situation that it is." And but I mean, they were cool with it. They weren't judgmental or anything. My sister and her kids and family have came and they visited the zoo a few times. So they were very open to having Joe in the family.
And you moved so you get married 2 weeks later, you move into the zoo. Now the living quarters at the zoo seem a little filthy to me. How did you find them?
See, I never went into the trailers. That was just for the employees.
Okay.
I mean, they weren't the best trailers, obviously. But I mean,
right.
I don't know. They were kind of dirty, I guess. Yeah.
Okay.
Can I ask you a question?
Yeah.
What about, so we find out later that there was a lot of drugs happening, a lot of drug pushing. Was that something that happened early on? Was that hey, there's drugs available, or was that off the table for you guys?
I honestly knew nothing about drugs on the park.
Okay.
All I did really was stay in the house and take care of my baby animals.
Okay.
And then just walk around the park.
Okay.
Were the animals part of the allure in being with Joe? That it seems like a lot of people got swept away by the idea of of petting the baby tigers and stuff?
Oh, 100%. I mean, I was in a really bad place in my life when I met Joe, you know, and
Why?
he
What was
kind of-
happening? What was happening?
I was going through a lot of things. I was an addict.
Okay.
And being around the animals kind of like gave me a purpose. You know, I felt like I was actually doing something with my life, and it like brought me out of my depression, and you know, it was like my own little rehab.
What, So you were an addict, but but any drugs that
seems so
were
prevalent.
around the zoo, that was not part of your experience at the zoo in the same way it was for Travis Maldonado and his other ex, right?
Yeah, no, not at all, actually. Joe never once, you know, encouraged me to do any drugs. I mean, I smoked a lot of weed.
Right.
But that's literally it.
What were you addicted to?
Prescribed narcotics, Xanax.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, it was an intense time for me.
Have you been in touch ever with John Finley or any of Joe's other exes?
Yeah, John, he was always on the park. It was kind of frustrating. He acted like he was entitled to a lot of things. He would walk in the house whenever he felt like it. I don't know. I mean, he wasn't a bad guy, but just not somebody that I necessarily wanted to be around all the time. But he was there basically every day.
Okay. And how old were you at this point? You may have already said, but I forgot.
I was 22.
Okay.
You were 22. So this was just 2 years ago.
Yeah. So we got married December 11th in 2017.
Wow. And so how soon after did he go to jail?
It was maybe 7-8 months, but we were at the zoo for 6 months before we left.
How often are you in touch with him?
We speak like 3 to 5 times every day. But since he's been moved to this new facility, they are putting him on like COVID-19 isolation because of the previous jail he was at. There were cases.
Wow.
So I have yet to speak to him since he's been moved.
So Joe Exotic is in his own COVID-19 quarantine right now.
From what I know, yes.
From what you know.
Yeah, this is just what people have told me.
Are you still in love with him?
I do love Joe. He's been there for me through my darkest times, you know, and I'm not just gonna dip out and abandon him when he needs me most, you know. Are you sober now? Are you clean? I do not do any drugs. I smoke weed sometimes and I drink alcohol. But
what did you think of the documentary?
The producers, they put the story together very, very well, I think. They stayed true to the entire storyline. And I even learned a lot of things that I didn't know, like about Carroll and Joe's feud, because I tried to stay out of his business. It wasn't my place, you know. I wasn't necessarily involved.
Have you ever spoken
so
to Carol Baskin? Have you ever spoken to her?
No, I have not.
You've never spoken to her. Let me ask you this. They get very personal in the doc about Joe is very open about having a Prince Albert the size of like
and the padlocks.
The padlocks hanging.
It wasn't a very big padlock. Okay.
Okay. And is a Prince Albert? Do you have a Prince Albert?
I do not. No.
And were you? There are reports that Joe was really into S&M. Were you into S&M?
No, we actually never did anything like that.
You didn't?
No, we did not. And he never asked me to either. But I knew he had done that in previous relationships, but no.
You know, all of his boyfriend, you know, it seems like all of his boyfriends get their nipples pierced. Did he encourage you to do that?
We were leaving Walmart one day and I was like, oh, maybe I should get my nipples pierced. And he was like, okay, really? And I was like, yeah. And so he drove straight to the tattoo place, and I got him pierced.
Wow. And are they still pierced? Are you glad you did that?
Oh no, I mean I really liked them. So I lived in Denver for a little while, and I was bartending, and I had the mixer cups together, and they were stuck, so I put it against my chest, and I pulled, and the lip of the cup caught one of the nipple bars, and it ripped it clean out. So then I took the other one out.
Were there were there tigers in the room when you had sex?
Wow, Andy. No,
And?
there were not.
There were not. There were not.
No, that would make me really uncomfortable, actually.
Right.
I would like
Right.
that. Wait, when you showed up for that first date and there were cameras, did you know beforehand, or were you like, what the hell is happening here?
Yeah, no, I walked out of the house, and they were like, he pulls up in the limo, and all these camera people get out, and I was like, what the hell? And then he was like, oh, this is just, I'm filming something. It's not a big deal. So I'm like, okay, whatever.
Right.
It was kind of weird. It was definitely overwhelming. I was like, why is this, being recorded?
Did Joe? I'm sorry to be jumping around, but we have so many questions here. Was Joe's first boyfriend? Did Joe's first boyfriend die of a meth addiction?
Honestly, I have no idea. I know his name was Brian.
No, it was HIV, remember?
Oh, really?
Yeah. Remember what the guy from Monday said that he died of HIV in his arms, and that changed him forever.
Wow.
That was what we learned Monday.
There you go. What are you doing now, Dylan?
I am, currently, at
Yeah.
this moment.
No, I
laying
mean
in a hammock in the sun.
You're laying in a hammock. That's how I picture you, Dillon Passage. Laying in a hammock in the sun.
Yeah, that's what's happening. It's been like that the whole quarantine, really.
Wow. And you live in Florida, and what do you do for a living?
I bartend.
You bartend. And what do you want people to know about Joe Exotic or about this whole story that you think they're missing? Is there anything that you want people to know, or about yourself that you've heard that you want people to know?
I mean, personally, I don't need to. I don't feel like I need to explain myself to the world. My life wasn't supposed to be, put on blast. Kind of. I wasn't prepared for that.
Mm-hmm.
But Joe, he's a really good guy, and he may have made some sketchy decisions, and I know he regrets them, but his intentions are really good at heart, and he would do anything to help anybody in need.
Did you ever see animals being mistreated at his zoo?
Not once. I mean, if he really mistreated the animals, do you think he'd be able to walk into a cage with 10 plus cats at one time?
You're right. Good point. Now, was he dominant in bed, Joe Exotic?
You're getting personal.
You know it. You know me.
Joe is Joe. I'm just gonna say that. Joe is Joe.
I can't. We've been trying to figure out if Joe was a top or a bottom on here on Radio Andy. We can't figure it out.
Kinky.
I would just say he's a power verse. All right.
Yeah.
He's a power verse.
He's kinky.
He's a power verse. Okay, that's very interesting. Now, were you always attracted to older guys?
Yeah, I think so.
What are your thoughts about Jeff Lowe and his possible setup of Joe for the murder for hire plot?
I mean, I'm not going to say much, but I know it's not a possible setup. It's a 100% true fact that he set him up, and he even said it on the show. He said some people may call it setting up. I call it persuading.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
So, but I'm not going to talk about Jeff. That's not my place, and a whole can of worms I don't care to open.
Since you left Oklahoma, have you been in contact with anyone from Joe's zoo?
I know I don't talk to anybody who worked at the zoo, but Joe's best friend, her name is Anne. I call her grandma. We're really close. We talk every day, and she didn't work at the zoo, but she would just come down and help take care of the animals. And, she's been a really good rock and steady in my life. We have a very good relationship.
Did you sign a prenup with Joe?
I did.
You did? Interesting.
Yeah, I wasn't after anything Joe had. Okay, all I wanted to do was stay at home and take care of my animals, and that's what I thought I was going to do for the rest of my life. So this was a big life-changing moment for me whenever we left the zoo. And then he got arrested, and that was it was mind-blowing.
There's a lot of talk about the fact that Travis and John Finley were actually straight when they married Joe, and that Travis, there's a lot of people seem to be interested in Travis, Maldonado. What do you know about his sexuality? I guess it seems so confusing to people, or about his relationship with Joe. What did Joe tell you about that?
Well, I mean, I never knew Travis, so I can't speak about, his life, personally. But from what I heard, he didn't necessarily need to be gay to have a connection with Joe. Joe saved his life, and he had a really strong connection with Joe, and he loved him, like, through thick and thin.
Did Joe save his life? Because it's alluded in the documentary that he stayed with Joe because of drugs at the zoo.
Yeah. Those photos of him with
honestly,
bags
I
of
have
weed.
no idea. I know that he really was in a bad place and, doing drugs, but I wouldn't necessarily say that's why he was with Joe.
Was the wedding ceremony awkward for you with Travis's mom there?
Oh, my God.
No, so, like, she's a really good lady. I like Cheryl, but she was distraught when obviously her son passed away, and me meeting Joe and this and that, and him inviting her to the wedding. But she I don't know. She made it seem like Joe just abandoned her after he met me,
and that he used her by having her at the wedding.
She was at the park every day.
She was.
Yeah.
Okay.
And I think that she was, coerced into saying certain things on camera because somebody else was supplying her with things that she needed once Joe was gone.
Wow.
But she was at the house when we were leaving. She was, in the back room where Travis's stuff was. That was like his little man cave, I guess. Yeah. And she was just grabbing things and taking them out, and Joe didn't have a problem with that. He was like, that's your son. Take what you like.
But Joe? Sorry, go ahead.
She never treated me weird. She'd always hug me and always say she was super happy for me and Joe, and that I made him happy, and he needed somebody in his life once Travis was gone.
Has Joe watched?
It's really confusing watching the show and seeing that.
Right, you felt like that was confusing. Has Joe watched Tiger King, and what does he think of it? I mean, it seems like he would maybe love it. I mean,
he's in jail, so he can't necessarily watch it. But he was, once the show dropped, he was getting hundreds and hundreds of emails to his jail mail, and he was ecstatic. It was a lot of good feedback, and he likes attention, obviously.
Yes,
calls himself Joe Exotic, the Tiger King.
Yeah.
So he really enjoyed the feedback.
He's enjoying the attention on his jail 100%. Mail. Carroll Baskin has criticized production, as has Doc. How do you feel about the show's producers?
I really like Rebecca and Eric. They've been there for me, since all of this stuff happened with Joe, and they've always been very upfront with what they believed, and I appreciate them for sure.
By the way, what is a power verse? I mean, what does that mean? Just you enter into you enter into both positions with vim and vigor?
Yeah, let's say that.
Okay. I like it. That's hilarious. Is there what, by the way, why did you agree to do this interview? You've remained quiet. Why did you agree to this?
Well, first off, I mean, I've been a big fan of yours for a very long time.
Thank you.
Seeing your shows and stuff. But I just, just reading the comments on my Instagram posts, people have a lot of questions that were unanswered because a lot of the interviews we did, they didn't put into the show.
Yeah.
So, I just feel like it's good, and I should tell my side of the story.
Yeah.
And like where I'm at in this.
Any plans? So you're bartending in Florida, at a gay bar or?
No, it was a hotel.
At a hotel. Got it.
Yeah.
And are you faithful to Joe Exotic while he is?
I am very loyal to Joe.
Oh, you're very loyal to Joe.
I am loyal to Joe.
In that phone conversation in the car that we see, it sounds like you guys are talking about how hard it is to stay loyal in a way. That's what I took away from it. Or
Joe,
how
that's Joe's biggest thing. He's just like,
right.
He doesn't want me to be alone.
Okay.
But
right.
But he also doesn't want me to move on, if that makes sense.
Sure.
So he doesn't want me to leave. That's his thing. But I have no intention on leaving, and I've reassured him that for the past.
But what
year
about
and a half.
like open relationship, like physically?
Yeah, I mean, it seems like it's time to open this relationship up, Dillon.
79 years, girl.
It's a complicated situation, but let's move on.
Does it say it's complicated on your Facebook page where it says your relationship?
I don't have Facebook.
You don't.
No. The only social media platform I use is Instagram.
Got it. And have you been surprised by how this thing has blown up? I mean, you must have. You must be.
Oh, it's huge. Yeah, well, because it was never supposed to be this big. The producers were even shocked because originally the plot of the show was just supposed to be about the big cat underworld. And then Joe got arrested, and it just completely changed the whole dynamic. And I feel like that's definitely a big trend for this right now. Is that free Joe Exotic? And
are you into? Yeah, apparently. I read that Cardi B wants to, she's trying to raise money to free Joe Exotic. What was your reaction to that?
Kind of shocked. I mean, I had other people sending me like screenshots of it because I don't have Twitter or, Facebook, so I don't really see that stuff. But I mean,
what was your reaction?
I feel grateful that
you're
she's
grateful.
doing something like that.
Yeah. What has been your reaction to the public discourse surrounding Carroll Baskins' alleged involvement in her husband's disappearance?
I mean, they reopened the case, Well, I mean, it was open, but they're reinvestigating her now. So
they're looking for new
wait
information. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And what about when people say the film celebrates him as sort of a hero, but that he wasn't a great guy? People say that that your husband isn't the hero he's portrayed as. Do you get defensive? Do you say, the full story's not being told? What do you think about?
People are entitled to their own opinions,
Sure.
And at the end of the day, it's not going to change what they believe because they don't know Joe personally.
Right.
I mean, he was definitely persuaded into the situation he was in. And it was all coerced and orchestrated by a madman. And, he was in a bad place also, just losing Travis. And I feel like he was definitely taken advantage of.
Yeah.
Wow.
But people are entitled to their own opinions. If they don't like Joe, then cool, that's not going to hurt his feelings,
We do see parts of him that are such a softie. So, I mean, I know that there's a part of him that you probably see more often than everyone else that is loving, caring, and, regardless of the things that might have been tough to watch, or, like...
He definitely puts on a front in his videos, tough guy. Yeah. But he's really sensitive deep down. And
will you get a Prince Albert in tribute to him?
100% no.
No, you will not. Was that? I mean,
Do you make
No
him take
needle
it
is
out?
ever going near my penis.
was there any no needle is going near my penis? Says
Hell
Dillon
no.
Passage, one of the
Quote me.
headlines from
Quote
this
me.
interview. Dylan, when you saw the Prince, I mean, I'm repelled by a Prince Albert. When you saw it, what was your reaction to it?
What the fuck?
Yeah,
That was your reaction.
Did you make him take it
Yeah.
out?
When we had sex, yeah.
Yeah.
I was like, don't.
I'm
you're
afraid
not
that'll
gonna
get stuck up in there.
Exactly my point.
Wow.
I was like,
Yeah.
that's not for me.
Or pull something out.
Have
What about
you-
the
have
gunshot
you-
tattoos?
Oh God, I don't even know.
Have you
So weird.
typically identified in your sexual life as a top or a bottom, or how do you identify?
I like both equally.
You like both equally.
Yeah.
Do you know anything about Jeff Lowe's current situation? About where he is? Did that zoo ever get built?
Tim Stark, you know, the guy who was building it with him,
Yeah.
building the zoo. Well, I know that they've had a falling out because Jeff is lazy and wasn't doing anything on to help build the park, and Tim brought all his animals down from his zoo, and then when he left, Jeff wouldn't release the animals, so then he had to take him to court and do all this, and it's been a whole thing. But I really don't keep track of what's going on in Jeff Lowe's life.
Got it.
It's
Well,
unimportant to
listen,
me.
Dylan, it is so cool talking to you, and I have to say I'm really impressed by you. You come off very sweet and dedicated, and you're calm, you're thoughtful, you're kind, you're considerate, and you're also a really good sport. And you seem wise beyond your 24 years.
I appreciate that, and thank you for letting me come on here and speak my story.